It's NWA Day.
That's right. You want NWA? We give you NWA.
NWA.
I love it.
NWA.
But yeah, so we're gonna go live. I'm gonna hang out here on TikTok too. You guys, if you want to just listen to me talk, I'll be here. I'll see some of your comments. But the real show will be on youtube.com/the Alliance blog. I hope to see y'all there. Otherwise, you can hang out here.
Over there.
Yeah. Otherwise, you can hang out here and we can still talk.
All right, buddy. Well, podcast. Thank you guys.
Later, brother. All right, guys. Bye. This music.
So, what day is it today?
Tuesday?
Wrong.
It's Tuesday.
NWA Day.
They want NWA?
Let's give them NWA. So, yeah, we'll be talking NWA if you guys are here. Yeah, we'll be talking some more NWA. I hope they don't release AJ Styles. If anything, send them to TNA Wrestling. That's what I would do.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? Stop what you're doing and listen.
Okay, let's party.
It's the pre-party with J. Cal.
What is up, everybody? Apparently, I don't know how to do the studio still yet, so we'll do that. There we are. What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to the pre-party. This is a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. My name is J. Cal, and I'm here to talk to you about pro wrestling, specifically the National Wrestling Alliance United Wrestling Network. And I'll tell you this, man, we are kind of coming up in the world. This whole Alliance blog is really taking off because on Friday night, we were international, baby. We had North American covered, and it was crazy to think about it because your boy Jay was down in Mexico, down in Tijuana, with our good friend Soto619, watching Lucha Libre, covering the Crash. But in the Pacific, or excuse me, in the in Canada, in Canada, in the north, we had the Reluchador and our very own Timmy Alliance covering Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. That's pretty cool. So we had two promotions being covered at the same time by the Alliance blog, one in Canada, one in Mexico. But we also had someone covered in the United States as well. Yes, we were covering in the United States. Millennium Pro Wrestling, our pal Lamb, who actually lives in Germany, was covering what was happening for MPW. So in the course of one evening, the international appeal of the Alliance blog was all over the place, and it was so cool. I'm very proud of the work that we're putting in at the Alliance blog. If you care to visit www.alliance-wrestling.com, we were talking about the whole world of pro wrestling, Lucha Libre, Canadian wrestling, American wrestling. We had you covered, and I was very, very proud of that. Oh, man. So tonight is being advertised as the finale of the Crockett Cup. And I will say that this has been my most favorite NWA live event since they left the PBS studios in Atlanta, Georgia. This event was so much fun. And look, I'll be honest, guys, I've been to many NWA events over the years. I've been to TV tapings in Nashville. I have been to the Crockett Cup in North Carolina, the Crockett Cup in Nashville, the Crockett Cup in Philly. I've been at the anniversary show in St. Louis, the anniversary show in Philly. And I forgot about the Crockett Cup in Forney, Texas. So I think it's fair to say that I've been to enough NWA events to tell you, like, this was the best NWA event I've seen again in quite some time. And you had, I'll be the first one to admit that I wasn't a big fan of the Battle Royal, the David Crockett Memorial Tag Team Battle Royal to set up the wild card tag team. I'm not a big fan of that. And I figure, I know they're just trying to showcase as many tag teams as they can because this is a tag team tournament. And in previous years, it had been a 2-night tournament. We're down to 1 night. And I just didn't think it was the best way to promote the show. I feel like some of the tag teams that we saw in the Battle Royal weren't necessarily that great. The team that deserved to win was the team that did win. We saw the duo from Slime City, the Slime Balls, capture that wild card spot. They were the Bracket Busters by beating former tag team champions BFT, Blunt Force Trauma. That shocked the world. We got all the way to these finals. You had the Holy Grail be eliminated by the Colognes. You saw the Immortals eliminate the tag team champions, Trevor Murknox and Mike Knox. I mean, we had a lot of upsets and a lot of what I specifically call the unpredictable happened. A lot of things happened during the Crockett Cup that I was not anticipating. So to me, that was really cool, and I enjoyed that specifically for that purpose. The matches were fun. We had a lot of good single matches. I mean, we had the chain match between Wrecking Ball Legursky and Jay Bradley, effectively ending that tag team partnership. It looks like will not have the team of Talos and Daisy Kill going forward. If they do team, it'll be like a strained allegiance because it seemed like they were having the falling out during the Crockett Cup. But the Lost had a good show, but obviously they did not advance in the tournament. So we saw Max the Impaler have a match against Mims for the national title. That was pretty cool. We got to see Alexander Hammerstone make his NWA debut. They crowned a new television champion in Brian Idol. All these things happened, and it was really a fun night. But if I'm going to be completely honest with you, if I'm going to look you straight dead in the eye and tell you what my favorite part of Crockett Cup 2025 was, it was the minute that a third-generation wrestling royalty, Natty Neihart, entered into the 2300 arena to challenge Kenzie Page for the NWA Women's World Championship. Over here, we call that the Burke. And Natty challenged for this historic title, a title that goes back to Mildred Burke back in the old days of pro wrestling. And we got a different Natty Neihart. The way that they built this matchup online was, Kenzie going to the WrestleMania weekend where Natty was competing at GCW at their Josh Barnett's Bloodsport. Kenzie was there, and Kenzie got in Natty's face. There was the shove that created all this controversy. We had a video clip of, a dejected Kenzie Page showing up at the dungeon to attack Natty Neihart on social media. They did all this really cool stuff to build up this match. And then we got nothing. We got nothing, guys. The NWA either did not secure the bag, they didn't have the rights to, they didn't have the ability to show the match of Natty Neihart versus Kenzie Page. And if that was the point, if the point was to sell tickets, it worked. I mean, it got me to fly from Southern California all the way to Philadelphia to watch this event. But I feel like they left so much meat on that table. They left so much good shit right on the table that, the fans should have been able to get to see. I think it would have legitimized how great of a competitor that Kenzie Page is and how hard she's worked and how far she's come in such a short amount of time. It also would have showed you how badass that Natty Neidhart is. And we didn't get to see it, and we won't get to see it. And I think that's a real bummer. Like that to me, that was the match of the night. To me, that was the match, probably the most important NWA match they've had in years. And it doesn't look like we'll get to see it. Now, the good news is you can find bootleg versions of it on the internet. So I highly suggest, if you haven't seen it, to go check it out. But it was a bummer. Our good friend of the show said, Soto says, is there a potential to show the match later on, maybe years later? There's always that potential. Look, I don't know what I don't know what the NWA signed up for. And maybe it was never intended to be on television, but they should have advertised that as such. And I see your comments, Joey, but I'm also trying to, we're doing the live stream right now. We're talking NWA wrestling. I'll be happy to, if you want to message me, I can talk to you later. But right now we're talking about something else. So, as Noob said in our chat on YouTube, it's finally, we got through the Crockett Cup. It was long as F. It was, and it was mostly entertaining. But omitting the Natty Neidhart versus Kenzie match is weird. Yep. I agree. It is weird. It's not the move I would have made. It wasn't the decision I would have made. But I don't get to vote on those things. So it is what it is. But what's up, chat? Again, my name is Jay Cal. We're here talking about the NWA. Willie Bone with his Tyrus joke of the day. And it is, hey, Jay Cal, Tyrus and Rolando Freeman will be in the reboot of the movie Dumb and Dumber. Except for you called it Dumber and Dumber. Perfect, Willie. Love it. Jammin' Music Man's here. What is up, Jammin' Music Man? You enjoyed Thrillbilly versus Hammerstone. I think it was certainly a great introduction to Hammerstone into the NWA, but I want to see more. I think Hammerstone is one of these guys that could help elevate the brand if used properly. We'll see how that goes. You know, they're going to be going to Riot Fest. They just finished up TV tapings. Apparently results are out there. I haven't seen them, but it's there. Soto, so you jumped in the ring again for the Crash last Friday? I did not step anywhere near a ring. I was there for the show, but I had no desire to get involved or get inside of the ring. Alex Misery's in the chat. The fact that I'm still here and alive means that Alex Misery has either gotten bored with me or he found someone else to terrorize. Jammin' Music Man said, maybe they got something planned. I hope they do. I mean, look, they very well could. I don't have all the answers, guys. I don't work for the NWA. I'm not invited to those meetings. No one shares any information with me from the NWA at all. I speculate and I summarize and I make educated guesses. The fact of the matter is that they debuted on Roku with that match in the can, and the fact that they were unable to show it makes sense. Because if I'm the NWA and I have a match with a WWE superstar, especially someone of the stature of Natty Neidhart, we're not talking about, you know, some lame from NXT, somebody from LFG. You know, we're talking about legitimate, historic, Hall of Fame career Natty Neidhart. We're talking about the Hart family. We're talking about a legacy that goes back to Canadian Stampede Wrestling. I mean, we're talking about some big star power. That would have been the match I would have put on first. Maybe even to not the main event, like the opening of the show. And that match, the clips of that match would have been in my intro forever. But apparently that's not what's going to happen. Natty versus Kenzie, Aldis versus Cody, Murdoch versus Cardona. Make a DVD or an NWA pay-per-view with all the biggest matches of the Billy era. EC3 versus Tyrus. The only reason why you said that's one of the biggest matches is because Tyrus is literally a giant cow of a man. Yeah, Soto said I was going to tune into the NWA to watch the match, but I guess I'll watch it on YouTube. Yeah, I mean, you can find it on YouTube. YouTube.com/Alliance blog. Sean Mega says Tyrus ate the tape of Natty and Kenzie. Sean, that's called gimmick infringement. Better watch out. Willie's going to be looking for you. Richard Holiday needs to join Hammerstone to battle the Southern Six. I don't hate that idea at all. We've been introduced to Richard Holiday in the NWA by way of Exodus Pro, which has made its shows available on the NWA YouTube channel. There is a correlation there. Richard Holiday would not be coming in as an unknown or a known commodity outside of the NWA. He has shown who he is for the NWA, challenging EC3 as world champion, being involved in a triple threat match between Thom, Latimer, EC3. Yeah, I agree, Dave Scooby. I think he should. Noob says the match between Markova and Kylie Page is a no limits match. Is fun, and though I hope that Markova can't keep doing hardcore matches, it doesn't fit her character. Yeah, I did omit that match. That was also another good match. Again, the Crockett Cup was a solid card. I give it a solid B plus. And I know some of my detractors would disagree with me. Some of my own Alliance guys would disagree with me. But it was a very, very good event. And I would be happy to watch this show again. I think they made some pretty interesting decisions when it came to how they promoted the matches on Roku. They did for my taste, they did too much of the same video compilations. They would do a promo, and then they would do a video package that contained the promo, and then they'd kind of re-show some of the stuff we'd already seen. I felt like there was better ways to edit this show together. But at the end of the day, I feel like the NWA did present a very good quality program over the last couple of weeks. And I enjoyed it. With that all to being said, we are now in the finals of the Crockett Cup. We will have a Crockett Cup tournament champion at the end of the night. We will have a World's Heavyweight Championship match tonight. Well, yeah, Alex. I mean, we wanted the loss to be in those finals. We wanted the loss to make what the heck was that? We wanted the loss to make a statement at the Crockett Cup, and I think they did. I think the tag team partnership of Crazy Steve and Alex Misery is solid. And I would like to see them perhaps challenge for those NWA World Tag Team titles down the road. So, yeah, I mean, that's very, very much what led to the finals tonight. Of course, this Crockett Cup, we will see the team of the Immortals, which is Odinson and Kratos. Kratos is a former NWA World Tag Team Champion. The two have also been former NWA US Tag Team Champions. They are a solid tag team. They're really good. And they're going to be stepping into the ring against former WWE Tag Team Champions, the Colognes, Epico, and Primo. So I feel like this is a very good opportunity, again, to showcase tag team wrestling. And, that's kind of what this is all about anyways. The whole Crockett Cup is about showcasing tag team wrestling. Kratos and Odinson defeated the tag team champions to get to this point. They defeated the Slime Balls to get to this point. Epico Primo defeated Talos and Daisy Kill. They defeated the Holy Grail, EC3 and PB Smooth. All the teams involved really did work hard to get to this point. But it is what it is. Slime Balls did such a good job of disrupting the whole tournament by taking out Blunt Force Trauma. We got some pretty interesting matchups. Seeing Talos and Daisy Kill versus Odinson and Kratos, we've seen that match enough times. We didn't need to see it again. We had some pretty good matches. That's the thing, too. We'd never seen Odinson and Kratos versus Murknox. In fact, that match frustrated Trevor so much that he turned heel. So I feel like this is, again, another dynamic moment where we saw some paradigms literally shifting in the NWA. Trevor Murdoch has been a babyface the entire run that he's had in the National Wrestling Alliance, and now he's very much cemented himself as a heel. I mean, you could only choke a little person so much with a scarf before the fans aren't going to be cheering for you anymore. Double D says Kratos and Aaron Stevens, one of the greatest tag teams of the Billy Corgan era. Sean Mega says, starting next week, we'll be on a 2-month delay. Well, 2-month is better than 3-month, I guess. And that's the thing. So we know that they filmed television in July in Tampa ahead of the tapings that they did at the 77th anniversary show. Then they filmed television just last Friday in Tampa again. And we have Saw Win coming up in October. So a lot of pro wrestling is already going to be in the books. And I don't know what the plan is. And that's the thing. There is no transparency in the NWA. We don't know what the plan is. At some point, they're going to either have to slow down their TV taping production or start releasing more content. But anyways, we have, if this is the end of the Crockett Cup finale, this is it, and they don't show any more matches from the Cup. Next week, we'll be seeing matches from Tampa that were filmed in July, in September. And then, of course, we also have the main event tonight of, not the main event, the world title match. It's a triple threat match, and this is depicting your world's heavyweight champion, Thom Latimer, defending against Rhino and Colby Corino in the ECW arena, the 2300. Now, this is also an interesting kind of paradox because the match was built up for weeks. We saw that Hard Times when, Rhino made his debut by goring the Slime Balls, by goring Carson Bartholomew Drake, and just simply saying he wants a shot at Thom and the 10 pounds of gold. Thom and Rhino have met on the independent circuit quite a bit. Thom has even worked for Rhino's promotion in Michigan. That's an interesting point, Dave Scooby. Trevor made short work of Eric Smalls. Ding. But Trevor isn't face or heel. He's just a badass. I don't know, man. I think if you're choking out a little person, that's going to make you a heel. That's just me. Maybe it's just me. I'll apologize if I'm wrong, but I think that kind of, you're not a tweener at that point. That's a heel move. But getting back to this world title match again, there's a lot of history between Thom Latimer and Rhino, none of which was displayed over the weeks leading up to this match. Again, I feel like that's a huge fail on the NWA's part, especially before this match happened. The two had crossed paths, whether it be in IWR in Michigan or other venues, Maple Leaf Pro, where things could have happened. We could have had some interaction between the two, and it never happened. We never got anything. So to me, like the whole idea of having Rhino and not filming vignettes leading up to it, not having altercations on these other independents. Now I get it. Look, IWR is a separate entity. It is not an NWA affiliate. It has no loyalty to the National Wrestling Alliance, has no need to put the NWA over. But how hard would it have been to say, hey, young fella, hold this phone while Rhino and I shoot a segment together? Or, even Rhino saying, hey, let's have me attack Thom in the back. They didn't do anything to build up this match, which is really disappointing. And then the week before the match was set to happen, they announced that Colby Corino would be part of it right after Rhino had signed some sort of working agreement with AEW, which also just kind of left a bad taste in everyone's mouth, thinking, oh, they put Colby in the match to do the job. Double D said, what's IWR? IWR is the Insane Wrestling something Revolution. I think that's what it is. It's a promotion based in Michigan that is partially owned by Rhino. Sean Mega says choking out Rolando is a babyface move. I can't argue with that, Sean. You're absolutely right on that. Absolutely right on that. Double D says, my referee buddy got gored 2 weekends ago by Rhino. Rhino! And I mean, look, that's the kind of stuff that they could have done leading up to this. Like, just having Rhino spear Thom Latimer in that IWR ring and just show that footage on NWA Power. It would have made a lot of sense. I feel like it would have hyped up the match a little bit. But all of that was for nothing because you put Colby Corino in it, and now it's a triple threat match. And, I think maybe they partially the reason why they did that is we know that Colby Corino earned a title shot. We know that. I felt like it would have been better if he had got a one-on-one shot at a later time, but they decided to just shove everything together to make something happen. It was on a night where the NWA honored Sabu. You had Colby Corino kind of pay homage to Sabu with some of his mannerisms and maneuvers inside the ring. You guys will see that tonight. And I don't know. I feel like they could have done this a lot better. They didn't. So we're no natty match. The feud between Thom and Rhino kind of was very nothing. But the show was still pretty good. Double D asks, Colby's out seriously injured right now, isn't he? Yes. And of course, this all happened before he was injured. And I'm not trying to say anything negative about Colby because he's actually one of the best reasons to watch Power when he's not hurt. But I feel like they messed up the storyline and it could have been better. But, we're arguing and we're talking about something that was filmed back in May. So go figure. Patrick Moore said, what can the NWA do to speed up the taping turnaround? I mean, it's really simple. Stop filming. Either stop filming or cut down on what you've already filmed and only show what's important to get to that right spot, right? So, like, we have theoretically the Tampa TV tapings should net at least 4 weeks of Power. What do you mean, Double D? Didn't come of negative? What do you mean? But getting back to the TV taping schedule, we know that we have at least 4 weeks of TV from Tampa, maybe more. I'd say let's trim that down to 3. Let's get to the talking points that we're going to forward. What was filmed for 77? The random title defense that doesn't mean anything, put it on the back burner. I don't need to see Brian Idol defend the title. That's not going to be what sells me on the 77 anyways. I don't need to see a lot of matches that don't directly impact what's happening at 77. Skip those matches, make them YouTube exclusives. I don't care. But that'll trim down the time frame from 77 or from the Crockett Cup to Tampa to the 77. Okay. Thank you. I don't want to sound negative. I like Colby a lot, but just putting him in that match didn't make a lot of sense to me. I know that they wanted to go with Rhino. They had an opportunity to use Rhino and it made sense. But then, they should have done it that way. They should have put Rhino and Thom in that match. And then, maybe 77 or maybe the Tampa tapings afterwards, they should have put Colby and Thom in a one-on-one match instead of doing a triple threat. So those are some exciting matches for tonight's Power. Of course, that is the cool part. That's some of the cool stuff that we're going to see. What's up, Stardust? But I think what we should be also talking about too is there's a lot of news with the NWA, of course. Let me get to your comments and then we'll talk about the NWA news. I'm good, Stardust. It's nice to see you again. Noob says, I enjoy watching the NWA ever since Markova showed up, and I hope that her run with the NWA has been good so far, and her run with the Burke will be good. Well, that all remains to be seen, and I hope you're right. Patrick Moore says, I'd like to see more continuity between the NWA and the territories. Yeah, I would too. I feel like there's such a disconnect there, and maybe we might start seeing a more connected universe now that Joe Kazana is doing his thing with the territory president. I mean, look, the whole feud between Crossfire and Joe Kazana Promotions has been unfolding over on Power through backstage segments and skits. We had Tyler Franks interfere on behalf against the Kazana family during their match at the Crockett Cup. So again, that could lead to something as well. We'll just have to kind of wait and see. But we do know that there is a match scheduled for the 77th anniversary show that will pit members from the Crossfire promotion against members in the Joe Kazana promotion, bringing the territories to the forefront. So we'll see, unless that gets cut too. But yeah, the late breaking news, the news that we heard just today, Matt Cardona scheduled to return to the NWA at Saw Win 3, which will be taking place from Atlanta. Now, Matt Cardona is a former NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. Matt Cardona won the title by defeating Trevor Murdoch for that 10 pounds of gold. I believe that was like 2 years ago. And it happened kind of, I'm not going to say it was unexpected. They were kind of hyping it up. And it was only a matter of time before we were going to see Cardona in the NWA or with the NWA World title. It just felt like that's what they were going to build up to. And since Cardona has been a part of the NWA, I mean, they came in, he came in back in 2021 with his partner, Murknox. And then, had victories over Victor Benjamin, beat Trevor Murdoch for the 10 pounds of gold, defended the title against Nick Aldis, won via disqualification, but won nevertheless, defeated Tim Storm, defeated the Pope, ended up defending the title against Richard Holiday at ASW in West Virginia. Then he would get injured and lose the title. So that was kind of a bummer for Matt Cardona. There was a lot expected, a lot was supposed to happen, but he got hurt. And that's kind of the nature of the business. That's kind of the nature of using talents that are not under contract. Wrestled for GCW, got hurt, and ended up essentially ended up going, kind of leaving the NWA, and then showed back up after he was healed. First doing the job to Rolando Freeman, which was just terrible. And then later would come to the hard times in New Orleans and lose in a triple threat match against Tyrus and Trevor Murdoch. That would be where Tyrus would win the title. Cardona would beat Rolando for a number one contendership. But then kind of after that, he was back in tag team wrestling, teaming with Murknox, losing to the team of Brady Pierce and Rush Freeman, losing to the team of Blunt Force Trauma, and eventually losing his title match against against Tyrus. So we never really saw what Matt Cardona could have done for the NWA. He came back to have victories over Odinson and Ricky Morton, lost to Kerry Morton, challenged for the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship against EC3 at GLCW, would come back and have that ultimate match of death against EC3 on the premiere episode of the CW, Power on CW. And then his last match with the affiliated with the NWA, he had challenged for the 10 pounds of gold at Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling Resurrection against Thom Latimer. So, somebody like Matt Cardona has this star power. He's made his name, on the indies. We're not talking about the guy from the WWE. We're talking about, Matt Cardona, who really has put his name out there, really built this reputation, this legacy, but has not found a way to have tenured success in the NWA. Obviously, the guy's going to work everywhere he can. This is his job. This is his life. This is his livelihood. But I figure if there was a greater focus in the NWA, he could potentially carry that brand. That's not something that he's going to be doing anytime soon. So Cardona will be returning to the NWA for Saw Win. I don't know if this is a one-off. Maybe he'll be more of a regular member of the roster. It's not really been advertised more than we just know he'll be at Saw Win. So hopefully it won't be in a role of a commissioner or a figurehead, that he'll actually be wrestling for something of some sort of significance, some sort of prominence. Double D, I don't have a pick for this season of Dancing with the Stars, but I think Topanga's in it, so let's go Topanga. Patrick Moore says, I also want all the territories to be easy to watch and follow. You're asking for a lot because they are not regulated by the NWA. None of them have a quality control that has to measure up to some barometer. You know, you've got a lot of the matches that happen for Crossfire end up on Title Match Network. Then you've got Joe Kazan Promotions with their own YouTube channel. You've got Exodus Pro releasing their matches via the NWA's YouTube. You got St. Louis, Missouri with WLW doing their stuff on TV. You have NWA Texas, both Dog Pound Championship Wrestling and NWA Texas, and they're just neither one of them have seemed to find a stronghold for television out there either. So it's just kind of I agree with you. It would be nice if there was one easy place to see it all, and if the NWA was smart, they'd figure out a way to do that. But as of right now, we haven't seen that yet. So the other news with regards to the National Wrestling Alliance is that the former NWA men's television champion and currently women's television champion, former Max the Impaler, has left the National Wrestling Alliance. Now, this is kind of a big deal. Max was a very dominant force in the women's division, and again, was a former men's television champion, beating Mims to win that title. So Max was kind of a big deal for the NWA when Max arrived to the National Wrestling Alliance. Max, like I said, dominated the women's division, had excellent matches with Camille, had excellent matches with Kenzie Page, who challenged Kenzie Page for the women's world title last year at the 76th anniversary show, and defeated Kenzie Page to win the women's television championship. But I don't know that they ever had a long-term plan for Max the Impaler. It seemed like it was announced, Jackson, it was announced recently on Max's Twitter that they would be leaving the NWA. Interestingly enough, Max's face was what adorned the Saul Win flyer. And they've recently, after Max announced their departure from the NWA, her graphic has now been replaced with Silas Mason, the Thrillbilly. So I'm not going to go on and tell you what a big loss this is for the NWA, because I don't genuinely feel like it's a big loss for the NWA. I feel like the NWA took a hot commodity in Max the Impaler and nerfed it. And I don't exactly know how that happened. I don't understand why that happened. But I feel like the minute they tried to use the non-binary persona, look, Max the Impaler is a non-binary person, and I'm fine with that. My problem is having a wrestler who competes in the women's division, moving them to the men's division and expecting them to have the same level of success. Max the Impaler competes in Japan for the Tokyo Puresu women's wrestling. I'm sure I'm not saying that right. TJPW, the Tokyo Joshi Puresu. I think that's it. Anyways, where Max regularly competes against females. And I feel like that was a very good place for Max to be, because Max could be very dominant in that division. There aren't a lot of wrestlers in the women's division that look like Max, that can match size with Max, strength with Max. So it never made sense to me why Max was put into the men's division. Not that Max couldn't hang with some of the men, but why, if it ain't broke, why fix it? Max in the women's division could have been dominant. Max could have been your women's world champion. Max could have had the Burke, and Max could have been this very dominant persona for the NWA women's division. But even on top of that, you also have to remember that Max the Impaler is a special attraction. Not unlike the missing link, or not unlike Andre the Giant. And I've never understood why there's a rush to put a title belt on these special attractions. Some wrestlers don't need a title belt. There's a reason why Undertaker spent most of his career in the WWE without the World's Heavyweight Championship. He doesn't need the title to be over. He doesn't need the title to be a draw. And I've always thought that was such a bad move to put, you put your secondary belt on Max, which I never felt was a good idea. But then you put the men's television title. And yeah, Max did have a victory over Mims and then beat Mims for a second time. But then had these matches where, Max beat Jake Dumas in a title match. Jake Dumas isn't a star, but it was like 50-50 booking. Carson Drake made his whole gimmick is that he couldn't beat Carson Drake, and he beat Maxine Paler for the title. And once he took the title off of Maxine Paler, a lot of the magic and whimsy of a Maxine Paler kind of just went out the window. Jackson says, where do I think Max will go? I think the first and easy answer is back to Japan. They will go back to Japan and continue to be a dominant force in TJPW, and potentially even get opportunities to go into other Joshi promotions. Maybe there could be a run in Stardom, or maybe an opportunity in some of the other Joshi promotions in Japan. But I just feel like that was a huge missed opportunity, and the perfect example of trying to put a square peg into a round hole. It just doesn't always make the best sense. Max was one of the most dominant talents in women's wrestling when they debuted in the NWA. Max left. We know that Max took the loss to Mims at the Crockett Cup for the national title, and we know that Max takes a loss at the next set of TV tapings before the 77th anniversary show. So, how do you mess up a hot commodity? You nerf them by putting them in pointless angles and stupid matches. All right, more comments here on YouTube. We'll get to them right now. Chris Gallego says, I miss WCW when they had two world champions, the WCW World and International Heavyweight Champions. Why were those two WCW titles dissolved? Well, essentially, the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship was referred to as the international title once Flair left WCW. I think. Now, they can make me put my thinking cap on. They had set up the secondary title because one of them was essentially the NWA World title. The other was the WCW World title. And then the NWA and WCW came to a decision that they would no longer be a part of one another. So when the WCW split from the NWA, they renamed it the WCW International Heavyweight Championship, which was basically just the big dome globe belt. Not dome globe, the big gold belt, excuse me. The title that you saw Flair wear pretty much from 86 to like 93. They dissolved the title because it didn't make sense for WCW to have a sanctioning body championship and a singles title at both as world titles. They ended up merging the two championships, I believe. But I guess that was kind of ahead of its time because look, now you've got Raw and SmackDown both having their own versions of the world title. So, I mean, that kind of makes sense. Rolando beating Cardona was our Hurricane beating The Rock moment in Billy's eyes. That's a terrible take, Devin Dowling. And you're probably right, but I still hate it so much. I mean, Chris, it was the big gold belt. Was it not? I mean, I guess I can Google it right now. I got nothing else going on, but the WCW International World Championship. Yeah, so the WCW so this is from Wikipedia, which is not always reliable, but I'll just say this. It's the WCW International World Heavyweight Championship was a professional championship that was contested in WCW between September of 93 and June of 94. And although it was owned and controlled by WCW, the championship was presented as the highest accolade of WCW International, a fictitious subsidiary. The championship was contested at WCW events and several events in Japan under the aegis of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Represented by the big historic gold belt, the championship originated as the World Heavyweight title of the NWA, an umbrella organization of wrestling promotions from which WCW withdrew in 93. At that time, the WCW was responsible for deciding which of their wrestlers would hold the NWA championship. When the NWA withdrew WCW's control of the booking of their championship, a fictitious alternative was created to promote the use of the title belt. Over the title's history, 8 title reigns were shared between 4 wrestlers. Rick Rude had 3 title reigns, comprised the longest total time as champion with 202 days. Hiroshi Hase is the champion with the shortest reign. Ric Flair was the first and last title holder. So, yeah, that was the NWA Big Gold. When WCW withdrew from the NWA, they kept the Big Gold title belt, which they had bought from Ric Flair when he left the NWA in 91 to join the WWE. You remember the NWA still recognized Ric Flair until he signed with WWF at the time, and that big gold belt was on their television but always pixelated out. We would later see that Flair would eventually sell the title back to WCW when he would return, and it was acknowledged as the NWA World Championship until WCW withdrew from the NWA. TSW has local TV all over Texas starting next week. I mean, Sean, that's what I've been hearing for months, and I would love to see it, but I just haven't seen it happen yet. I still watch videos of former NWA Bruce Tharp lighting a fire on a promo. I am so sorry you had to see that, Chris. I wouldn't watch anything with Bruce Tharp in it unless it was White Lavender Jones, and if you know, you know. Conway was a great world champion. What happened to him? Well, I mean, like everyone else, he kind of ages out of the business. Conway was still doing professional bodybuilding when he was world heavyweight champion, and he, when he lost the title for the final time to Hiroshi Tenzan, he essentially stopped working for the NWA on a regular basis. And I think he still wrestles on occasion, but I don't hold me to that. I think he's mostly retired. And I wouldn't expect him to come back to the NWA anytime soon. There was once where they did try to bring in Conway for an autograph signing, and things went awry. Why Trevor Murdoch is not going after the world title? Well, Chris, right now he is NWA World's Tag Team Champion. And, you know, he's been World Tag Team Champion for just about a year now. So I don't think he has an overwhelming desire to stop that. TJ Perkins Wrestling. Yeah, something like that. What does EC3 stand for? Ethan Carter III, as I see a couple of you guys are already addressed. Noob says, I guess it's because of the booking. I mean, when it comes to booking a special attraction wrestler, Max should have never held both TV titles. No, and just going back to Max in general, Max never needed to have a title to be popular or to be, I think the kids call it having aura. Max was Max. Max didn't need a belt. Max should have been the person that they brought in to challenge the champion and then get screwed out of a title victory. I don't think you ever need to put the belt on Max. Max should have been dominant, but not champion. I mean, that's how I would have booked Max. Thank you, Coyote Hustle. Appreciate that. I have been hitting the gym pretty hard, and it's been working. Wife appreciates it. I mean, Max had some fun matches with Markova on Max's early run in the NWA. Exactly. And that's where Max would have been beneficial to the NWA, is again putting Max in matches with somebody like Markova to have Markova prove that she was ready to be world champion. That's how I would have used. Bob Trobich was NWA president when he be. I don't know what you mean, Chris. But yeah, Bob Trobich was the NWA executive director. They didn't have a president title at that time. I remember NWA Wrestling on Showcase. Yes, that was a good time, Chris. Those were some good memories. I was at the first set of tapings that ended up being on Colors TV at the Hollywood Columbia Square Studios. And that was at a wild time because Colors was only available on satellite TV, not Direct TV, but Dish Network, not Direct TV, but Dish Network. So if you didn't have Dish, you couldn't watch it. And they did have a internet capabilities, but back in 2008, watching wrestling on the internet was not easy. Yeah, Dave Marquez was the host. I used to watch wrestling on Colors. I used to think Dave Marquez was an NWA promoter. Chris, he was. Dave Marquez was the promoter of NWA Pro Wrestling, which was the California member of the National Wrestling Alliance. The WCW. This has been sorry. I was reading it. Two promoters and David Marquez, NWA, and Dale Gagne. No, you don't want Dale Gagne anywhere near the NWA. Dale Gagne was a con man. That guy was a con artist. He was just looking to steal the AWA name. They got sued so many times. From the WWE. And that guy was a shyster. He was a total shyster. No, I would not have wanted them at all to be part of the NWA or to work with my pal Dave Marquez. That's just not good business. Big Money Dodge, what's going on? So yeah, I mean, we kind of just broke down the news of what's going on for the NWA right now. Of course, there's a couple of NWA events that are coming up very soon. We know Crossfire's having an event this weekend. As I try to pull up some of the live events that are coming your way, they will be at Riot Fest on September 19th through the 21st. What's crazy to me is that they're advertising the champions who lost their titles at the 77. So you're going to see. Yeah, I do agree, Jackson. It would be dope if Corgan booked Cross, especially at Saw Win with Scarlett. And hell, bring in Shotzi too. I think that would be amazing. But yeah, the NWA will be at Riot Fest. We know that the advertised World's Heavyweight Champion Thom Latimer, Women's World Champion Kenzie Page, EC3 TV Champ Brian Idol, The Crush Markova, the World Junior Heavyweight Champion Alex Taylor Stevens, and Carson Drake, and the rest will be at the Riot Fest. NWA will be on tour in New York on September the 26th in Glendale, New York, at the Sacred Heart Catholic Academy. I also believe they have another date in Melville, New York. Again, the basic the names that you are accustomed to: Thom Latimer, The Looks That Kill, Kylie Page, Joe Ocasio, the Slime Balls, Wrecking Ball Ligursky. We know that NWA New Mexico has an event this September 18th. I forgot about Duke City Wrestling. We haven't seen much about them lately, but they're heading back. They're running their event that's coming up very, very soon. Let's see. Then of course, Crossfire is having the Black Harvest event. Rich Swan will be on that card, as well as Juventud Guerrera. Juventud Guerrera is the Crossfire champion. They will also feature Mr. Kennedy and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat will be there. And Teenage Rosemary will also be there. Hey, Penelope, thanks for the gift. Hexodus Pro returns on October the 11th. It'll be the NWA Exodus Pro event taking place on Saturday, October the 11th at the Treelawn Music Hall in Cleveland, Ohio. All of these events and ticket information is available at nationalwrestlingalliance.com under their live events section. Make sure you check it out. It's going to be a lot of great wrestling's coming to you very, very soon. And I highly suggest everyone getting on board because now's the time. I do feel like Crockett Cup was that big next step. The anniversary show had some really interesting title changes. And what the NWA does next, powered by Roku every Tuesday night for Power, powered by the Wrestling Central that will feature matches of the NWA also on Roku. These are really exciting times for the NWA. And I guess as we wrap it up, Chris Gallegos says that NWA should bring in Dakota Kai. I don't even know if Dakota Kai is still wrestling at this point. And then Patrick also answered Chris. Yeah, he promotes United Wrestling Network. Gotham Wrestling, NWA, excuse me, not NWA, Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. I think it's 1FW Wrestling in Atlanta. Double D, if you can make it to a show, wear your Alliance shirt and report on the results. But that's going to do it for us, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on this Tuesday. I do appreciate you guys being here. We're going to wrap it up. So I guess I will. Where is it? Oh, it's not there. There it is. All right, guys. New software. Still trying to learn it. We'll see you at the matches.